All right. It should be live for them in a second.
Okay.
Welcome in. Welcome in. Hope you all are ready. Mm-mm-mm. Welcome in, Kendra. Kendra, can you hear us well? Great, great, great.
Thank you so much.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started because I try to be on time, was a few minutes late today. Technical difficulties. User error. Let's put it that way. User error, me. Well, welcome to the Queen's Quarters. Tonight, we're joined by a guest with an inspiring story. As a teen, she faced a difficult experience, but now she's going to share her journey of how she overcame that. I want you to please welcome Monica Phillips as we share her journey and how she reclaimed her power. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you so much. Thank you
You're
for having me. I like that I regained my power.
yes.
Um, I will just start with I'll give you my backstory.
Mhm.
At the age of 12, both of my parents died, and I was the youngest of nine children.
Sorry to hear that.
And so after my mom died, um, the Children's Service Board got involved. The state got involved. And because I was the youngest child, they took custody of me and placed me in a foster home with a woman who was a church mother. Now, there's different denominations, and I had pretty much grown up as a Kojic kid, Church of
Mhm.
God in Christ. So when they placed me with this woman, she was a church mother of this church, and when I lost my mom, I lost my world. So just going from losing both parents to now losing the rest of my family because I was taken from my family.
Mhm.
Um, and then I was still in trauma, and it was so much going on in my young life. And once I moved with the the woman, she was a beautiful woman, but she was what you call and this is church lingo. She was the church mother. She was over the pastor's aide. She was, always doing things for the first family and things like that. So when I was, I guess, 13, maybe, there was an elder at this church, a minister, if you will. And I noticed, and he was the choir director actually, but I noticed he would, just kind of be overly friendly with me. But because, you know, prior to my mom dying, I was outside playing jump rope, freeze tag, all those things with friends. I had never encountered anything like that. So this man, he started molesting me. And I was I didn't know what to do with it, so I just kind of let it happen. I'm 13 at this time, and there there was this boy there, and he was just the cutest boy, and it was like I loved him from the moment I saw him. And he was around my age. He was probably like 14 or 15, somewhere like that. Quite a few brothers, so they showed him the ropes of doing different things. But this elder, he started to molest me, and back then, 40 years ago, I didn't know the word molest. He started touching me, And I got to a place where I thought, let me go and tell an adult, because this is what you're supposed to do when you're being touched inappropriately. And so, with everything that was going on with my mom and me just being in this house alone with no family, and I finally got the courage to go and tell an adult, which was the pastor.
Mm.
I went to the pastor and I told him that this elder was touching on me.
Mhm.
And at that time, the pastor said, okay, I want you to keep bringing me reports.
Wow.
So at that moment, I was just kind of standing there trying to process, what does that mean? Keep
Mhm.
bringing you reports. Does that mean that you're not going to talk to this minister? You're just let him keep touching me and then keep bringing you the reports afterwards? And so that's pretty much what happened. He continued to molest me, and each time he would touch me or put his hand up my dress or my skirt or down my shirt, I would go and tell the pastor. Well, this is what he did this time. So I'm thinking at some point one of these reports going to cause him to call a meeting or something. Um, but he never did. The pastor himself, he started asking me, well, what did he do this time? Did you like it? How
Wow.
did it feel?
Mm.
And I kept saying, no, could you make it stop? Um, but it didn't stop. So put a pause there. This boy that he was just, I don't know, I got so attached to him. He became, you know, my savior. So small s. But I had got with him, and he hated me though. He was the type that didn't like dark skinned girls. Him and his brothers. Light skinned girls or Puerto Rican descent. So I was this little chocolate girl. And he hated me, but for some reason I just gravitated toward this boy, and he would always call me bald headed, you black, you ugly, but I was his experimental person um, when he took my virginity. Okay, so in the midst of that, I finally told him that this this elder was touching on me, and then I had to tell him that the pastor also, because once I went to the pastor and he kept asking me, how did it feel? What did he do this time? Um, he never called a meeting, but he started molesting me, the
Mm.
pastor as well.
Mm.
And so it's like I went to the help for help, but the help started helping himself to me.
Right.
So now I have the pastor that's touching on me, and I have this elder that's touching on me, and then I have this boy that's my age have taken my virginity. And I got to a place where I felt comfortable enough to tell the boy what was happening to me. And when I told him, uh, it stopped. The abuse stopped.
Right.
Um, and so now this boy, my loyalty goes to this boy because he saved me from the bad men. Okay. So it's like whatever he did to me, my loyalty was there. But there was this one night, and as I said, my foster mother, she was um, always doing something. There's cliques in church, unfortunately. Um, And so she would always cook for the pastor and his family, and then there was a group of people like elders and missionaries that will always come over. So they had free reign to enter, her house. So there was one night that this um, elder came over, and he told me that he heard what I told the boy, right? We'll say the boy all the way through this. But I was 14. Okay, because this went on a long time. So I was 14 because when I told the pastor, it's like my mind, my brain would not compute. Go tell somebody else. You know, it's like, well, I told somebody else, and that was the pastor. So now that I've told him, and now he's touching on me, I felt doomed. What? Who else am I going to tell? That was my mindset. Um, and so at that point, I think I was like 14, 14ish. But there was this one night that the elder came to the house, and he asked, was my foster mother there? And I said, no, she's not here. But of course, he could come in. Now, he, I don't know, it was this dead on look that came in his eyes. And this is after he told me that he told the boy that I was lying, he never touched me, and things like that. So at that moment, he started coming over toward me, um, and he wrestled me down to the floor, and that was when he penetrated me. He raped me. Um, and he wore this cologne, and I smelled it. It was horrible. But he did this on the floor of my foster mother's house, and I was fighting. He overpowered me. He raped me, and then when he got up, he said, "I better not tell no one." And so I sat there just like, again, I didn't know words like molest and rape and, penetrate. I didn't know any of those words back then. And even with the boy, I was a child doing grown up things, you know. Um, and so I didn't know what else to do at that point because I've already told the pastor. I told an adult, and this is what's happening. Um, and prior to that, he would come over, and, they would have dinner. He was like, but I would be talking to the adults like, please don't make me go. And the adults was the pastor, his wife, and my foster mother. And, I'm looking at them like, please don't make, talking with my expressions, please don't make me go. And so they would just say, go ahead to the store, go ahead to the store, and that was another night for him to molest me. And so at that point he raped me. um and finally, Children's Service Board, I don't know what happened, but they found out what was going on at the house. So they moved me from that house. Then they took me to another foster home. In that foster home, the lady was, throwing shoes. She was a church person too. These church folks is something else. Let me just stop and pause right there. But she was, a person that went to church, um, and the thing is, the caseworkers, they would just drop me off in these places, and my family didn't know where I was. I was just alone. So they were going to church this one night, And I think her husband was like, well, just let her stay home. She just got here. So I took the opportunity to call my one of my brothers. And when I called him, I said, you have to call my caseworker. This lady is throwing shoes at me. She's calling me stupid dummies and things like that. And this is in foster care. I mean, and foster kids did not ask to be where they are. You know what I'm saying? Something happened to cause them to be taken away from their parents or whatever. So, you know, if there's anyone that is in foster care on here, just consider that the children did not ask to be there. But I was being abused even there, but it was verbally. So when they came home, I told my brother call my caseworker, but my brother had called everybody. My brother DA, he called everybody. So I got my sisters. They threatening this woman, and then she, the next day. By the next day, I was gone. You know, so from that foster home, I went to another place, but this was like they called it a receiving home. Um, because now I'm in the system. I wasn't able to go with my family, my mom, dad, and I think like 3 months after my mom passed, we found out our father, he had passed too that same year. So it was a lot going on, you know. So they took me to this home, and I started feeling something in my stomach. And I didn't know what it was, but it was tightening up, and I was like, oh, what is this? So finally, I told one of the house parents, and I said, something is moving in my stomach. And she was like, well, are you pregnant? I said, I don't know. You know, I'm I'm just a child. I was doing grown up things with the boy, and then this man raped me.
Right.
So that was the size of that. So they took me to the a gynecologist, and sure enough, I was 14 and pregnant.
Wow.
So who's the child's father was the $1 million question.
Mhm.
So I immediately said the boy because that's who I was with, you know, more.
Mhm.
And I was 14, so he took advantage of me too. Um, and so the boy said that he never touched me, and then I said, well, it got to be the elder that touched me, that raped me. So both of them said that they never touched me. So I went to school for probably like a couple months, and the teachers, I could see the disgust on their faces, that I'm 14 and pregnant, and I'm in um, school like this. So the caseworkers decided to take me out of school because it, bad influence or what have you. Um, so they took me to Pittsburgh to a another group home where this it was called Zor Home for Unwed Mothers. I remember, and they took me there, and they just kind of they dropped me off. You know how you would drop a dog off at a shelter, or or kitten off at the shelter. They pretty much did that. They dropped me off, and I didn't hear from them. So I'm up here alone. Still, my family didn't know where I was. And there was this one day we had a long hall that you had to walk down for the phone. So one day there's a phone call that came in, and they was like it was for me, and I was the youngest in that facility as well. But when I got to the phone, I'm thinking maybe it's one of my family members, but it wasn't. It was one of the girls that the boy I guess was going with, or whatever. But she called and, was calling me whores. That's not my man's baby. Um, find your child's father. And it was just like so much. And I could hear him and his brothers in the background. It's like I was under so much distress that I contemplated suicide.
Mm-mm-mm.
And um, because I didn't want to go, I didn't want to feel the pain anymore. I was there alone. Nobody knew where I was. Um, the caseworkers never checked on me. It was nothing. And so I stayed there until I had the baby. So the phone calls kept coming, and I got to a point where I'm not going to answer it anymore because I know it's these girls that's going to, taunt me and uh, torment me. And so, um, but there was something inside of me, and I believe it was my baby, just saying, go answer it one more time. And of course, the Holy Spirit, because I do believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. And so I I made my way to this phone, and I was preparing myself to get yay. It was the same one that called my family when I was in the second home. And he was like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And I was like, DA. His name is Donnell, but we call him DA. I
Mhm.
don't know, when I got on the earth, they was calling him DA. So, um, but he was asking how I was doing, and I was like, I'm good. And he talked to me, was like, it's gonna be all right. I said, how'd you find me? We just did some talking like that. But that phone call saved my life because and I was putting on these fronts, because I remember when my dad used to beat my mom. She would put on these fronts. She would be bloody, her eyes is black, but she would put on this front, I'm okay. And I began to act just like my mom. And so, but he saved my life. I contemplated suicide 3 times.
Mm-mm-mm.
And that was the last time when my brother called. Like, he really saved my life. Um, got to the point of going in labor. I know my stomach was hurting so bad. And I didn't know why. I just, like, my stomach, the pain was coming and going. And of course, now I'm 14. I don't know anything about having a baby and, what it feels like and things like that. Um, but I'd been in labor all night, basically. So it
Mhm.
was one of the girls that, happened to come and check on me. And then, sure enough, I was in labor. So they got me to the hospital. And I was going to name my daughter Breon. Okay. So I don't know anything going on, but children's service and these people have been talking and, things like that. So once I had my daughter, a beautiful daughter, I asked the hospital, can I see her? Because some hours had went by. When I had her, they took her and threw the blanket over her face and rushed her out the room.
Mm.
And, I'm there, I'm scared. Nobody's telling me do this, do that. I'm just there, 15 years old. So, like I said, some time went by, and I finally asked one of the nurses, I said, when can I see my baby? And she walked out the room. And she came back in and says, well, you have to wait until tomorrow to see her when the social worker come in. So I didn't know what to do but just wait. The social worker came in the following day and said, well, we were under the impression that you were putting her up for adoption. Well, first of all, who told y'all that?
Right.
I don't know nothing about adoption. I don't know nothing about having babies. I don't know what contractions feel like. I don't. Who told y'all that? So it dawned on me years later that Children's Service Board had already made a deal.
Gotcha.
They made a deal. So because if I don't know nothing about it, and I didn't tell y'all about adoption because I don't even know what that is, who told y'all that? So she said, "Well, I'll let you see the babies just for a few minutes, but I can get in trouble for this." And so I don't understand any of this. But she did let me see the baby, and that's when I was like, "Oh, I'm going to name her Breon," and I was having these plans. So when it got time for me to come back to Youngstown, because I am from Youngstown, they took me and they took the babies. They took us down separately. So I don't even know if the baby ever made it back to Youngstown.
Mhm.
But they did let me see her twice. Finally, I got back to the group home, and the um, the caseworker was asking me, "Well, what are your plans? What do what are you planning to do?" So I said, "Well, I could ask my sisters if they could keep her till I'm 18, or um, me and her, or just her." And I was telling them what my plans was. I said I can ask the boy's mother, but when I asked her, she was like, "Well, my son said he never touched you."
Mm.
So that was a no. And then I asked if they would let my sister keep the baby. So they humored me at first. They went over, had a meeting, but the paper was already signed. It was a done deal already that
Mhm.
I had no control over. Um, and for years, to me, Children's Service Board was evil. They were evil people. Um, and so they put her up for adoption. Um, I got back with the boy, okay, and because he was my savior, my small S, he saved me from the bad men, and every time I would think about that, my loyalty just remained with him. And he I asked him one night, "Can we talk?" We went and talked, um and I loved him. I really, really loved this boy with everything in me. And but he became one of my abusers. He became one of my abusers in this fashion. He would beat on me. I think he hated me, but I still can't explain it. It's still conflicted to me because he didn't like me. He was always calling me black and ugly and bald headed and cockeyed, and he would tell me that um, nobody's going to want you. All you good for is a good screw. He would tell me that every day. And there's a commercial that says, "You are what you eat."
Right.
So I believed him. I believed that, um, I was ugly. I'm black. And yes, I wear glasses, and yeah, I do. My eyes is bad, but well, not bad to that point, but I wear glasses. So he would point out everything negative about me, and some more stuff. And because I was so vulnerable to him, I just believed everything that this boy said. Now this boy becomes a man, and I have four other children with him. I'm still hoping that my oldest daughter belonged to him as well. But I stayed through the cheatings, through him beating on me, through him, still telling me what I'm not, and who's not going to want me. There was this one time that we were, because when I came back around, he was probably like 18. So he was now driving the church van. Okay.
Mhm.
And if you want to stop me, you can. So he was driving the church van. So, all these girls was, wanting him. And him and his brothers, they was fine. They was play instruments and sang and, and so all these girls would, want him, and include me. Um, but I tell people he taught me how to be a side chick early, because I wasn't allowed to talk to him in front of nobody. I couldn't speak to him in front of anyone. But when he was ready to deal with me, he would come to get me at night. Like, I was never able to go anywhere with him in the daytime. He'd take the light skinned girls for that. um, but me as a dark skinned girl, I couldn't get no, you know, daytime with him. I had to get the nighttime. And so there was this one night, he was the van driver, and him and his buddy was up front, and um, the ladies is on the van, and so everybody's looking at who's left on the van, so hoping they would be left on the van. But this one night, I was the last one on the van, and I was still in the group home at this time, because I stayed till I was 19 when I graduated from the Rand School. So him and his friend, is up front, and I'm sitting in the back, and I was gathering my things up, because I know now I'm the last one on the van, so I'm going to be going home. And I looked down, but then when I looked back up, we were on this dark road. So fear hit me, but then I had to talk myself through it. Like, no, he's not going to let nothing happen to me. He's not going to do anything to me. Um, and so I just put my head down. I'm starting back getting what I was getting. So he wanted to have sex on the church van. And like I told you, my loyalty was to him. Whatever he said, do, because he saved me from the bad men. Um, so we went in the back. He came back there with me, and the friend got out the van. So I was like, well, and it didn't even matter to me. I said, but what about him? He's out there. And he was like, oh, don't pay attention to him. Don't, so we did what we did. And when I was getting up, um, I think I was probably like 18 now, because I stayed to the group home until I was 19. But I was probably like that age. And he, so we did what we did. And then when I was trying to get up, he was like, stay there. And I was like, what do you mean stay here? So he tapped on the window to signal the guy to come in. And so now I'm really afraid, because what is happening here?
Mm-mm.
And this boy, the boy that I love, the boy that saved me from the bad men, made me have sex with his friend.
Wow.
And when I say made me, I fought. I crossed my legs. I'm screaming at him like, "What are you doing?" Like, I loved him so much, and what are you doing? So the boy, he held my legs. He held one of my legs, and the boy had pushed one of my legs over till he can get in position. And once the friend got in position um, to penetrate me, the boy walked out. The one that I loved, he walked out, got out the van. So now this boy, he's raping me. The friend is raping me
Right.
because it was not consented. They held my legs open and did this. So after that was over, I sat in the back, and just like my mom, I was crying, but I was crying on the inside. You know what I'm saying? I was crying silent tears,
Mhm.
silent tears. And they never said anything. He never said anything. So they kind of gave each other a high five and drove me to the group home. And the only thing he said to me was, "Get out."
Mm.
So I got out the van, and I've just been violated by one, but I did it with the other one. So I'm in pain. And so he never even waited to see if I would get in the house safely, just drove off as I was walking up the hill to my house. So, of course, again, I had to put on this brave face, because if some of the other girls see me the way I felt, they're going to tell the house parent. But I put on a brave face till I was able to get to my room. I had a shower in my room. I put on a brave face until I was able to get to my room. And then as I took a shower, I just, how they just slid down a wall, just crying. Like, I was so distraught because I love you. Why would you force me to have intercourse with somebody else? And it just tore me up. But um, I'll tell you, it was like maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. I saw the friend that did that to me. And immediately I started panicking. And I didn't realize how traumatized I was by that until I saw him in that moment. I was in a store. And so he asked if he could talk to me. So I'm panicking. I'm trying to find a way out the store. There's only one. But then I said, okay, there's people here. I'm safe. So, I stood, a ways from him, and he told me, he said, "I'm sorry." He said, "The boy told me to do it,
Mm.
and I'm sorry." So it was like a weight lifted up off of me in that moment. And I forgave that man. I forgave him in that moment. Now, the boy, he never apologized. But what happened is, I was pregnant with my youngest daughter, and he called me one day and was like, "Guess what me and my sister and my mother is doing?" And I said, "Well, what?" He said, "We're planning our wedding." And I
Mm.
said, "And I'm not there?" I was like, how was that? He was like, "You don't have to be here. We planning it. So just, you just go show up."
Mhm. Okay.
And it was, in that moment I said, I love this boy my entire life. I mean, I don't even know how I got to that point, but he was like somebody that I held on to after my mom passed away. He taught me things. He taught me how to wash clothes. He taught me how to cook. It was just, you know, I depended on him.
Right.
And so, but in that moment, but I had also been through beatings and cheating. And, you know, again, he daily reminded me that I was black, I was ugly, cockeyed. All I'm good for is a good screw. He constantly reminds me of that. And that's just who I believed I was. And so in that moment, I said, all these years, I have wanted this man to love me. And Even through the kids, he didn't love me.
Mm.
But I stayed, and all of this time, and now he wants to marry me. But I was conflicted because you didn't love me. But my sister always used to say, "Girl, you the ace in the hole. You there when he can't go find nobody else." Um, but I showed up. I got my little beige dress on. I was probably like 8 months at that time. But the wedding was awful, Queen. I don't even call it a ceremony. I call it a money because I mean, the ring didn't have a diamond in it. It had tape on it. The food was cold. They was fishing, at the pond. The preacher that was marrying us, they was fishing. So, but it was horrible. But he saved me. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. I understand.
Like he, and that's what my loyalty was.
Hmm.
So we we got married, and it was a joke to everybody. um but there was this one mutual friend that we had, and she told me, she said, "I need to tell you something." I said, "Okay." She said, "The only reason he married you is because he got in some trouble and was looking at some years in prison, and because you have his kids, the attorney suggested that if he marries you, it'll look good in front of the judge."
Wow.
Yeah.
He couldn't just be honest. Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, when she said, "So I don't want you to be looking crazy no more." She said, "People laughing at you, and I don't want you to go through that anymore." Now, everybody knew except me, even her. She knew. But when I heard that, it's just like all the wind was already out of me. But, you know, some more came out. Um, I cried, but I didn't have any more tears. And I sat and said, "Now I understand." So it's not that he loved me, it's just that he needed me to save him from doing all this time in prison. So because I had the kid, because he was angry the day we had that Moni. He was angry, and I was like, why are you so angry? But he don't because he didn't want to marry me. He was ashamed of me. He never ever called me his wife. He never ever called me his girlfriend. But I loved him. He didn't love me. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, it was a time. So for 40 years, it's like, the devil called me a hoe. You don't know who your child's father is, because I didn't know if the child belonged to the boy or the elder that raped the sister. They knew about her, and I told them that she was their sister with their father, the boy that I married. But in actuality, I didn't know who fathered her. And so for 40 years, I buried that because it was just too painful. And again, I was being tormented by these thoughts. You don't know who your child's father is. You're a whore. And I was just tormented until one night I was sitting at work, and I worked as a corrections officer. And and this is how I can explain it. The Holy Spirit Shine the light. There was the sitcom Amen. Do you remember that?
I do.
Um, Shine down the light from heaven, Lord, shine on me.
Yeah.
And it's like a light shined on that dark part of my life. And immediately I started getting, you know, I was having anxiety. I was like, God, why are you showing me this? I buried this. I'm taking this to the grave because it's too painful. One second. And I heard the Holy Spirit say, because it is time for you to be made whole. Go and tell your children. And I said, now I'm having this conversation in my mind because I'm in the bubble waiting to do my next rounds, but my coworker is in there too. And
Mhm.
all of this stuff is happening. And I'm saying, I can't tell my children. I can't tell them. You want me to tell them I was raped? You want me to tell them I was molested? You want me to tell them that I don't know who their sister is by? I can't do that.
Mhm.
And you know, hey, listen, when the Most High tell you something, He's not gonna change His mind. Like you just got to figure it out.
Mhm.
So I cried and I cried and I cried, and I found strength to sit my children down and tell them what happened. I told them that I was raped. I told them that, I was molested. And the truth is, I don't know who their sister is by. I don't know if she's the elder's baby or their father's baby. And so it was so much, the emotions ran high. It was, listen, it was the hardest thing that I have ever had to do in life to date. It was so hard because that all of that had became a part of me.
Right.
So ripping it off of me like that, it was painful, but but it came off in levels. And so after I told them, I felt better because I didn't have to hold that dark secret anymore. Um, it was painful. I thought it was my fault. It was shameful, and all of it. So that's why we bury it. And so people would always say, well, why now? Why are you saying something now? And what do you want? And like I said, I was being threatened when I started telling my story. The people were threatening me and saying, you want money and why are you I'm going to tell you the why. The reason why we don't tell is because, first of all, who's going to believe us?
Mhm.
Secondly, we feel like it was our fault.
Right.
We feel shame because these things happen to us. And I mean, the elder told me, I better not tell nobody.
Mhm.
So we don't tell because we're afraid. We're shameful. We think it's our fault. We feel guilty. We blame ourselves for these things that happen to us,
Right. And I
and
think
it's
you
not
would,
our fault.
yep, and I think you would dig it even further down once you do find the courage to tell someone
Yes,
and they tell
yes,
you just move on and they don't listen.
yes, yes. So it's not our fault. So in the midst of me going through these levels of healing, because healing is a journey.
Right.
Okay, it's a journey. So going through these levels of pulling all these things off, I hear the Holy Spirit say, I want you to have this service, this gathering. And this gathering is for people that have been like me, men and women that have been molested, sexually abused within the walls of the church, and that have had any kind of abuse. Um, And I said, well, how can I do that? And I'm not healed yet. I don't know where my daughter is. I don't know if she even still alive. How can I help other people? And I'm still broken. But I felt like if I just be obedient and do it, something will come out of it. So I started planning the This Is My Exodus conference.
Mhm.
Okay. And I have speakers, I have therapists, there are counselors. And these are the instructions that he gave me and what to do. So th- we had the first conference, and it was a 3-day weekend. This is my Exodus. If you know anything about Moses, how he led the people out of the Egypt and things like that. And
Mhm.
so that Sunday, I called it the Exodus celebration. So everybody had went through deliverance. We praying for folks. We casting out devils. We're having seminars to get you on the other side of your pain. And so it was awesome. It was amazing. People were responsive. But then that Sunday, I woke up crying. And my daughter's birthday is August 21st. So every time around that time, I get, this hole is in my heart. It's dark. But this happened in May. So I was crying. I was so tore up. I didn't even know if I could make it to the last service.
Mhm.
And just tears streaming out of my eyes, thinking about my daughter. And after a while, there was just like a floodgate. Like I started screaming and, yelling. They didn't even give me a chance to raise her, you know, but there was a release because I had held on to so much for 40 years. I held on to everything that I had gone through, losing my mom, just all the things that I had gone through. But there was a release. And um, the Lord said, you have a counselor, go call her, because I had counselors for the people.
Mhm.
So when I called one of the counselors, all she could do was say hello, and the floodgate came again, and I'm screaming, and I said these words. I said, "I forgive them.
Mm.
I forgive them," and I held on to the hate and the anger, especially because the way Children's Service Board played me, if you will.
Right.
Um, you're asking me what are my plans for the baby, and then you tell me, well, we're going to take her and put her up for adoption. Why did you even ask me,
Mhm.
if you had planned to do that in the first place? So I began, after I cried so much, screamed so much, I was empty. And the counselor said, now get ready to meet your daughter.
Mm.
And so Sunday, May 22nd, I believe it was the last day, I think. But I began to tell the people how the captain is the last one to get off the boat, if anything happens. I said, I watched you all get healed this weekend. I watched how, you all became and, moved to your exodus. But this is what happened to me. And I just begin to talk about forgiveness, how I forgive the people that, mistreated me, mishandled me. And there were other men of the cloth that mishandled me. You know what I mean? Um, and it was like, even though I was getting older in age, I was still like that 12, 13-year old girl that boy saved.
Right.
So I always went back to him because he saved me. And it's called arrested development. I stayed in this situation. Even though I was getting older, I was still that little scared girl that lost her mom, that lost her family. And so that day, Queen, after we closed out, the very next day I got a call from my nephew. He sent me a picture. He says, "Is this your daughter?" And I said, "I don't know. When was she born?" So we're going through all of the things that, you go through to see. Now, I've been looking for this child for 40 years, you might as well say.
Mm-hmm.
But lo and behold, the day after I obeyed God and did that conference, a 3-day weekend, it was free. We had um, food, everything was free. Nobody had to pay anything, it was just free. And when I tell you, 40 days later, 40 years, and a day later, I met my daughter after
Wow.
40 years.
That's amazing.
Let me tell you. So my granddaughter, my nephew, he was looking for his father's people. So he did a 23andMe DNA test.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter's daughter had did a 23 test because she was looking for me. She was
Mm-hmm.
looking for her mom's people.
Wow.
So they crossed paths. She had wrote him a note in the file, just explaining to him this, my mother was adopted, all of that. But she wrote it on April 8th. He didn't go back to that site until May 23rd.
Ooh.
And I mean, it was just the way it was set up because the conference was over May 22nd. He went back to the um the site to check on if anybody wrote him. It was my granddaughter, but she had put the note in there on April 8th. You see how strategically that was?
Mm-hmm.
It was so strategic because April 8th, she writes the letter. He never goes back. But a day after the conference is over, he goes back to the site. And that's when I met my daughter.
Wow.
It was just so now we're trying to figure out if this is really her. So I'm talking to my grandson, her son, and he says, well, her middle name is Breon.
Hmm. Look at there.
Yes. I was like, oh my God. So I don't know how that even happened. I don't know if the caseworker had a moment of decency to
Mm-hmm.
tell the adoptive mother, well, she wanted to name her daughter Breon, but she kept Breon as a middle name. But her name is Courtney Breon. You can't get no better than that.
Amazing.
So, people say, well, why are you telling your story? Because somebody need to hear it. Even if you don't need to hear it, somebody need to hear it. There's other people out there that need to know that they can get on the other side of the pain of abuse. They need to know, listen, I had to forgive, and it was hard because I'm saying, why do I got to forgive them? They violated me.
That's right.
Why do I have to forgive? I didn't do anything wrong. They violated me.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, forgiveness is not for that person, it's for you. It's to get you together.
That's right.
Because some of these folks have gone on even unto death, and we still holding on to the fact that this is what they did. But what is that going to do for you but make you sick, give you high blood pressure, make you stroke out, all of those things while they're going on enjoying their life.
So true.
So I had to deal with that for me. I had to forgive for me. And once I did that, there was a release that came. And I'm telling you, it has been an awesome journey. And again, healing is a journey because every now and then I will see, another layer coming off.
Mm-hmm.
Another layer of healing is coming on, and another layer of, and I was so in bondage to the bitterness and the unforgiveness and the hatred, and but it was messing me up. It's
Right.
like holding on to a piece of hot coal that you saying you're gonna throw at somebody, but you still got it in your hand. You're gonna
Mhm.
get burned.
That's right.
So I had to decide for me. I had to do this for me, that I have to forgive. I'm gonna let go. Yeah, I'm not gonna forget, but I'm gonna let go. And now when I tell my story, I don't tell it from a place of pain, but I tell it from a place of victory, because I am victorious in this thing. This that I don't, people still mad, and I get it. I feel you. They violated you. You didn't do anything wrong, but do it for yourself so you can be free in your spirit to live. Listen, there was times when I would be up ministering, I would be singing, prophesying, and doing all these things. And when I go home by myself, here come those thoughts. You a whore. You don't know who your child's father is. It was the tormenting factor for me. Like the enemy would come and torment me so bad, and all I could do is just bow down to it, because I didn't have anything to fight with. I believed I was a whore. I believed that I was ugly. I believed that I was black. I believed that all I was good for was a good screw, because that's what my ex-husband would tell me daily. And because I was so loyal to him, I believed what he said. Nobody's going to want me. So I didn't even try to leave, because nobody's going to want me. You know what I'm saying? So I
Mhm.
got to stay here and just take what I'm getting, because nobody's going to want me. And the crazy thing is, I started living a promiscuous life, because I was trying to prove to him that that's not who I am. Somebody is gonna want me. Somebody is gonna want to love me. But it's almost like that lie became my truth. All I was good for was a good screw, because I didn't have any worth. So when I didn't have no worth, I didn't feel like I was worthy of anything. So I allowed men to use me. I kept giving myself away, because I don't have no worth. I'm not worth being on a man's arm, because I'm too ugly. I'm too black. I'm cock at it. And everything that my ex-husband told me, that's just who I was. But during this healing journey, I came to myself like, no, I have worth. I
Right.
have worth. I am somebody. I am fearfully and I am wonderfully made. But it took me a long time to get there, because I was in trauma. Losing my mom at such a early age, and then, playing with my friends, and then going into this place where I'm being touched on by a grown man. I
Mhm.
didn't understand what was happening to me. And then the times that I felt alone, and children's service board dropped me off like I was a pet and never came to see about me. It was just me,
Right.
you know? And so, but now I help people. I love the people. If anybody trying to get over, but you got to want it. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
My conference, my workshops, they can't help you if you're not ready to get on the other side. Some of us, and I get it, it's too painful. I talked on this podcast one time, and this lady said, after listening to you, she just started spilling it. I was gonna take my to the grave. She was 70, and she just told her story that she was raped in the church.
Wow.
So people get mad when you tell your story of things that happen in church. This one woman said, well, you trying to mess up our denomination. No, I'm
Mm-mm.
just telling my truth. I'm telling my truth. And I never blame people. Say, well, how do you still talk about God and these people? Well, I never blamed it on God. I blamed it on these filthy men that who are calling themselves of God. You know what I'm saying? They're men. And it I just, God brought me through it. That's it. And I don't listen, I don't go against what other people believe and how they believe. That's my
Right.
story. I remember this man was like, well, if you tell somebody on our denomination, you're gonna get it. What?
Exactly.
I said, if y'all cheerlead for God like y'all cheerlead for this denomination, y'all be some bad people.
Hmm.
And immediately when people like me begin to tell their stories, immediately we become the villain and not the victim. There's no remorse. They don't believe us or we don't believe you because of who we're saying it about. Oh, that's a man of God. That man of God raped me. That man of God molested me. And
Hmm.
so I would tell people, just listen. Even if you don't believe, just have some compassion, because why would I sit up here and tell a story like this?
Right.
It took me 40 years. I was silent for 40 years because of the pain, the guilt, the shame, and thinking that it was my fault. So now when I begin to tell my story, you want me to go back silent because I'm talking about a pastor? He did that.
Right.
So it's like the mindset is just screwed, with this. But immediately we're to blame. We did it. But now I know that it wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault.
Mm-mm.
I don't have to be ashamed of being raped or molested by these men of the cloth. They decided to do that. And it had nothing to do with the church. They decided to do that. And if it was a Baptist church that it happened with to me in, I would have said this happened to me in a Baptist church. It's
Right.
not all Baptist churches. It was the one that I was a part of. So it wasn't all Church of God in Crisis. It was simply the one that I was a part of. That's where it happened. And so people try to direct, well, you don't have to say church. You could just say, you don't have to say Church of God in Christ. You could just say it happened. But it happened to me at the church. Let me tell my truth. I was quiet for 40 years. And
Hmm.
so in the midst of that, I have been ostracized by the church people, and they want me to shut back up, and that's why I'm thanking you so much for allowing me to share, because this need to be a conversation that they really don't want to have.
That's true.
um and so I thank you so much for allowing me to share, but I was silent for 40 years. I'm not going to be quiet no more.
Don't.
But I'm not. Listen. I'm not mad. I'm not angry. And like I said, when I tell my story, I tell it from a place of victory, no longer from a place of pain. Absolutely.
Amazing. 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 Thank
Thank.
you so much. Thank you so much for telling your story. Thank you for giving others an opportunity to tell theirs by doing your conferences and getting together the counselors so that they can begin doing the work, because
Yes.
it's a journey. Like you
Yeah.
said, it's a journey and it takes time. There's no time limit on healing.
That's right.
You have to take it step by step. We did have a question. I'm gonna scroll back up here
Okay.
real quick. Uh, so these ladies were engaging. Thank you all.
I hear you, Mo. Better. I hear you, sis.
All right, so it was from Kendra. Let me find it again. All right, so here we go. It says, this is the question I have. I am struggling with the part of the Bible. How do you move past it? I know we are to give it to God, but how do we truly forgive?
I don't know what happened here. Can you hear me?
Yes, you didn't
Okay.
hear me?
How do you? Can you say that again?
Yes, it says, I am struggling with that part of the Bible. How do you move past it? I know we are to give it to God, but how do we truly forgive?
I have I wrote a book that's called This Is My Exodus. And in that book, there is steps that God gave me to get on the other side. And the first thing you have to do, you have to be able to confront your situation and what you went through. You have to be able to confront it. You have to be able to deal with it. You have to be able to just embrace that this happened to me. This happened, and then you have to get to a place of releasing it, and you have to do those steps again and again until you feel in yourself that I've released it. But you have to practice it though. You have to be willing to forgive. Like there are some people that are not willing to forgive because if you and I get it. Why would I forgive when this happened to me? But you have to get to the place where you say, okay, what is this doing for me by not forgiving? Yeah, it make you feel good because you hating the person that did whatever they did to you. But what is it doing for your soul? What is it doing for your spirit to keep holding on to that? So you have to get to a place where you are first willing to forgive. And once you are willing to forgive, you take it one day at a time. It's a journey. Some days you might feel like you can conquer it, and then some days you might feel like, oh no, hell to the no, I ain't forgiving that. No, but it's a journey.
Right.
It's a journey. So you have to go within yourself and say, I forgive. And you have to be able to forgive people dead or alive that harmed you. It's not easy, but you can do it. And it's one day, one step at a time.
Wow. Thank you so much, Kendra. I hope that answered your question. Um, Also, with your book, this is my Exodus, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Can you tell us where to find that book?
It is on Amazon and Kindle. This is my Exodus. I also have a manual on there called Maintenance for Your Soul. Because once you are welcome, because once you get to a place of healing, you have to do maintenance to keep your healing. You have to do maintenance to keep your journey on track. And so the this is my Exodus is going to give you a lot of information. It has steps in it, just like you have the 5 steps or the 10 steps when the person is an alcoholic or however that goes. But there are steps that God gave me divinely to help us get on the other side of the pain and make our exodus. And so I've practiced those steps. They work and they will work for you. But it's on Amazon and Kindle. And then my manual is also called This Is My Exodus Maintenance for Your Soul. And that is also on Amazon.
Awesome.
A
So,
lot of it's a lot of information in there, not just a book. It's a lot of information in there. Um, I even have a chapter in there because I was finished with the book, but
mhm,
I have a chapter in there called Pimps and Pedophiles
gotcha.
in the church.
Mm,
And so in my mind, I was gonna write it in all caps, you dirty, filthy animals. But the Holy Spirit just said, no, listen,
right.
listen. Some of these jokers, he ain't say jokers, that's me.
Yeah.
Some of these people that have molested and raped you, that happened to them. They were also victims.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked at it like that, now some of them just nasty and ignorant, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But there are some that have gone through and hurt people, hurt people.
That's right.
So if you have not been healed and you in this type of situation, you need to be healed. But you got to be willing to do the work.
I agree. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And please make sure you go get that book. I will definitely, I always put those like books or if you're a life coach, I put it on my community board. So I'll definitely have that up on the community board. And again, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us tonight.
Thank you
You're
so much for having
you're
me.
welcome. Your courage and openness is truly inspiring.
Thank
And your words, I know, are going to resonate with so many people.
thank you so much.
Thank you. And to our listeners, I hope this reminds you that healing is possible, even
Yes.
in your darkest moments.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you or someone you know is going through a difficult time, remember that your voice matters and there's strength in seeking help and sharing your truth. Don't keep it inside.
Yes.
When you're ready, speak. Tell someone. Monica, we honor your resilience. Thank you for reminding us that the power of the power of hope
Yes.
and healing and that you can do this. Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to your listeners. I hope I've said something that you can take away from this. Um, but we can do it. We can do it.
That's right. And if anyone's listening, if you would like to share your story, you can reach out to me. You can email me at queensquarterspodcast@gmail.com and you just give me a little brief, like a little bit of your story and put in the subject, I want to tell my story.
Yes.
Also, remember, no matter what you've been through, you're never alone. Stay strong, stay hopeful, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.